Introducing Must Farm, a Bronze Age settlement, opened 9 years after the excavation. The extensive post-excavation analysis revealed the settlement was short-lived, burning down only 9 months after its construction. The exhibition was the first time the public were able to see many of the objects up close. A wealth of everyday objects from 3,000 years ago captured the public's attention. Studies and collaborations among leading specialists provided new insights into daily life in Bronze Age Britain. How would all the information be brought together to form a clear narrative? One of the biggest challenges Natalie Bates had was reimagining the fire and family life to create the exhibition illustrations. I did a lot of looking at the site maps, the site diagrams to work out where the structures were initially, and so I wanted to make sure I got the orientation of all the buildings correctly, and I looked a lot at where the assemblage had been put, so where they think the kitchen was and where they think the textiles bit was. So I wanted to make sure I kind of got the plan view right first, and then started looking at it from the side. Looked at lots of pictures of all the objects to try and get a sense of what they would have in their house. We needed 2 images, one of the fire that was meant to be quite dramatic, and sort of show a lot of the fire and the sky, that sort of thing, so not necessarily showing the buildings as quite much detail, but the people and how they would feel. And then the other one was a cutaway of one of the roundhouses, so you could see it in its context and show that they were water dwellers. The fire one was a bit easier because I kind of knew that I wanted to get them onto the land, so I'd seen there's another lady who'd done an illustration of them coming onto the land, so I knew they probably wouldn't be going into the water, but could have done. So I was trying to work out the angle of where we were going to look at for the picture. Amongst the most astounding finds were the textiles and beads. They instantly captured the attention of Adrian, a writer and producer, on a recent visit to the museum.
As a writer and producer working in the film and television industry, the thing that immediately becomes fascinating when you see it is the textiles and basically what kind of fabric and material was created and manufactured at a time when you wouldn't automatically assume that people were capable of it, or indeed had that understanding and thought pattern to figure it out. From a purely technical point of view, it's amazing as a resource to get inspiration over what can be achieved cinematically and on television, and what's available as a reference point. Because you have to take in that any costume designer or any set designer has nothing to go on other than artwork or people's rough guesstimates. When you see the reality of what still exists, it's invaluable. And also it's quite astonishing that it survived that amount of time. So the preservation of this material is absolutely imperative.
So as well as finding the textiles, we also found the equipment of, or the artefacts of textile production. So there's things that you'd expect to find on most later Bronze Age settlement sites, like spindle wheels and loom weights, but also there were the bobbins and potentially the fragments of a loom within Roundhouse 1.
The exhibition has enabled many different people to encounter the Must Farm archive. Studying the objects up close for promotional shots has given the photographer a unique insight into some of the finds.
I think my initial thoughts when I was asked to do the photography for the exhibition were that it's a huge privilege, firstly, to be this close to things that are so historically important and so old and so fragile, but also a privilege to be asked to document it. You know, this is it on show to the public for the first time, and to be asked to document that is, it's a genuine privilege. The porridge bowl kind of spoke to me because you can relate it to your own life. It's an everyday object that people so long ago were using, and we still use today. You know, you still make your breakfast in a bowl today, and there it was, still preserved with remnants of porridge still in the bowl. That really kind of took me back.
As part of the exhibition, volunteers ran sessions to enable visitors to handle objects similar to those on display.
Well, a lot of it was that they liked handling the objects, and even though some of the objects were replicas, and they were quite interested in which were replicas and there were some real Stone Age things that they could hold. So that was good, and knowing how they were used. One comment that quite a couple of people made was the fact that they got the same functions as modern tools, that they still had to do the same things, and but they had to have different tools to do it with. There was also quite a lot of interest in the textile side of it. Some people who were actually people who had something to do with textiles. There's so much to learn about this as well, to learn about the subject, things I didn't know about. Archaeology is always something that's kind of fascinated me on the edge of things, but I've not had much to do with it, so that's really interesting as well.
Over 30,000 visitors have enjoyed the Mustfarm exhibition from all over the UK. Many have taken in the rest of the museum.
To find some of the other things which are very unusual finds, bits of textiles, which in a site of this kind of age are very, very rare to find. And the exhibition does a wonderful job in explaining not only what they are, but how they were made, and the people that were making them as well. So fascinating. I've been into the exhibition several times to have a look at that.
Introducing Mustfarm, a Bronze Age settlement, tells the story so far and is just part of the journey to understanding and sharing this unique archive.